This is a 987 Porsche Cayman S. I'm Raf, and I'm going to be walking you through how to clean up this jumble of wires, including an install of this switch in a super sneaky James Bond location in here. Let's get started. On careful examination of these two pieces, I think I can just pull this metal piece out of this frame and just drop it straight in. To cross thread this thing. Anyway, there it is, down at the bottom as it should be. Now comes the meticulous slow massaging of the interference. And now what I'm noticing is that these 2 points here are interfering. Which you could view. There you go. These two here. I'm gonna file them down. T30. Yeah, these are the two panels that I can remove. This one and this one. This leather piece. Without disconnecting the battery. You know, there's really nothing too dangerous about these. Panels out, it just kind of falls off. You can take out using a T20. Yeah, the reason I say you don't have to worry about disconnecting the battery for this, I'm going to stop before I get to anything electrical. I don't have much daylight left, so I'll continue in the morning. Using a T25 on the passenger side. Oh, there went a screw. We're pulling the woofer out anyway, so it's not a problem. This being just a cigarette lighter can be disconnected. And then I'll take this guy out. Got a T30 on here. Last two panels I'm going to do for today. So get your wiring jumble kind of out of the way. Just loose enough so I can pry the panel off. Come on. There, bottom's out. Should be able to get the top. Okay, once that's out, pull back here because there's a piece of plastic that interferes. So pull this out. And you're loose. Procedure for this side. This is the driver. Just knock it back. You can usually get it from just here. And same interference. Following morning, just disconnected the negative terminal here using a 10mm. I don't need to leave that in the trunk. And don't slam this shut. Just kind of leave it closed over. You want to still be able to open it. Now that the battery's unplugged, got a 7mm wrench and then a 5mm Allen. So just got to take that up. This is going to be long and tedious. I'm going to not even put it in the video for most of it. If you've got one of those nice ratcheting combination wrenches, it'd be better. But here, completely out. But once it touches the trim there, that's good enough, and you can undo the 90-degree clips on the radio. Fasteners on the radio, they're simply 90 degrees, so they don't turn them too far. They will snap. They're a little more difficult to see, but they're there, and up here, there it is. one's definitely the toughest one. So get the Allen key in there and get you 90 degrees. I took out unplugged the wires from the gauges so they're not dangling here anymore. Now 4 fasteners are undone, and so is a little hex screw. Pull the radio straight out, undo the connectors at the back. Connectors look like, got the antenna on the right side of the radio there, and 1, 2, 3 plugs. Previous video, we yank out the subwoofer, undo the connector. It's got a pinch up top, pinch up down bottom. And you're out. Now that I've got the gauge wire just laid across here, nice and no longer under the woofer or the carpets, next thing I'm going to do is take the gauge pods apart and drill through the dash. I'm going to go for right under here. I checked it and there's just a simple piece of plastic under there. Drill and a 1/4 inch drill bit. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm finishing up the hole with a 3/8 drill bit. Be really careful, because if you hit the windshield, you're liable to crack it. They're really strong getting impacts from the outside, but very weak, them being a parabola, getting impacts from the inside. I'm gonna go grab a vacuum cleaner. We have drill bit versus leather. Yeah, the leather just flexed around, so decided to stick an X-Acto blade. Just kind of carve the little square out. There we go. Next thing to do, now that we've got the hole drilled, we've got to take the shift lever out. The shift lever is surround, so grab here. The first time you do this, you're going to swear you're braking the car, but just remember there's 2 clips under here. You pull up on these, and then the back, it's more captured, so you just, once these front ones are up, it pulls up. Just begin to pry up on these. How to get this piece of trim off? There's clips here, 1, 2, 3. Jam under it, press up, jam under here. Oh, this one's already loose, good. And then the last one, which is here. And same for the other side. Trim from the driver's side. I'll snap it back so you guys can see how it pops out. But you jam in here. Jam here. And then lastly, you just use your fingers for the end. Come on. Guess this one's a little more stubborn. There we go. Once you've got the shift lever pried up, I've already started on the screws that we have to remove, but this is what you should do next. Pull it up, and on my car, I've read different instructions, but for my 987 Cayman, I turn this collar down at the bottom clockwise, and simply, put the car in 4th gear, and it doesn't matter what gear you're in. I just like 4th because I can get a good leverage on it. But you just pull straight on, up. And you're out. This is what the mechanism looks like. Your T20 and pull these screws out. Like I said, I cheated. I did them a little bit before I pulled the knob off. Okay, those are out. I'm gonna find a little bag to put those in. But for the trim, pop up. This is the silver trim that we're about to pull out. That's the only part that's captured, that little pin. Just pull back and you're out. And was to take the center console out, but upon further inspection, I don't have to. I can get away with putting the wires, just tucking them in under here. Bring them up over, get them behind the radio there. And the wires that I need to get here for my Accusump switch, I can just, same thing, I'll pry up a little bit of the panel there just to tuck the wires in, and I can tuck them all the way back here to where the shift cables meet the firewall trim. So a lot of time saved. I'm gonna remove this T20 for the center console passenger side. Alright, there should be plenty of space to pass wires through. Our dilemma, you can't get the wires through this. This is just stuck and this doesn't want to come up. Pull up the rubber and take out these 4 T20s. There's a hole here that doesn't have anything in it, so don't worry about that. Pulling the console out after all. This is the parking brake trim. Lever under here, pop up. Don't forget to take out this T20 there. Like 3 screws away from taking out the center console, so might as well finish it. This is just for shits and giggles at this point, because I can get the console to come up and get enough clearance to pass the wires through. On to what I was saying, take this trim out here for the sunglasses tray. There's a screw here and there. As the screws are undone, you may end up pulling out the PSM spoiler button array. There we go. They're just pressed in, so once that's out, we'll pull the sunglass tray out. You can unplug this if you want. Like I said, anytime you're messing with things with microchips in them on your car, you're best to have your battery disconnected. That way the car won't even notice. This tray is out. Take this screw out, the one on the passenger side, and then this one here. It's just connected to the black trim of the center console. What you do is unplug this electrical harness that's up there. I can get a good shot of it. Plug. Pull it down, and the console should be free. Let's give it a shot. I've only read the manual. I don't exactly know how to do it. I'm gonna see if leaving the shifter in neutral, of course, and the e-brake, I'll decide if I pull it up. Maybe pulling it up will help. Hey, it's working. There's run power signal through the hole in the dash, underneath the dash, into here. I'm gonna zip tie those two together. Then ran them down here. One of them from this way. I'm just going to tuck it back there behind the woofer, and this one simply going to run under the missing center console that I have now. These connectors, these are what I'm using. They're called microdeans. They're actually come from RC Cars. That's where I learned about them. But I'm going to be using those to connect this, and basically all the connections that are going to be under the center console for my wiring. Center console, this allows me to zip tie my wiring to the frame. Still cleaning it up as we speak, but This is where I decided to make my incision in my loom to tap into the, pretty much put in my switch to interrupt the Accusump operation. I've got a glass oven dish under here to solder these connections. My neighbors, this is a different neighbor doing construction. He's got it going, they pick the same day as I do. Solder the connections, here we go. This is power side of the switch. This is the Accusump side of the switch. And this one's just a negative lead for the LED that is in the switch. There we go. Look these down. Done. I finished up all the soldering at this point, other than the switch. I don't have my multimeter. Well, it's in the trunk, and the battery is disconnected, and I can't get to it. So I'm going to wrap up the wiring into the dash, make all the connections, and start reassembly. Slack is your friend. Slack here and slack here, so that if I need to or if something happens, you can pull them out a little bit. Zip tied here to the parking brake frame. Did a loop here for also some slack. And I'm going to put some slack up here. These ended up looking like the two terminals that I had originally. An LI connector. These are just my made up names, but they help me. So the O, FW, LI, those will get tucked up there. Center console reinstallation. Alright. Got some interference from something. Probably one of the many wires that we didn't have before, and we now have. Okay, I'm feeling that most of them are here. A bundle of wires forward. Now that it's up front, the center console, not up front, I mean, but in here. It was really interfering with this piece, so I just ended up folding it over itself here. Putting back the first 3 screws of the center console. So that right, left, and then that center. Gonna drop this piece of trim into the center console and put the 4 screws back in. Time to install the sunglass tray and the PSM button. Okay, make sure that's connected. And the sunglass tray goes in right under. There's a couple of rails that you have to get it into, but once they're in, it snaps into place. And put the screws back in. Now for the shifter trim. Up to the shifter trim, gotta plug the center console back in. There we go. Putting the radio back in. Obviously make sure your connections, your new ones, are solid and put together right. Now, first thing, the antenna. Most of these are indexed, so you can't really plug them in wrong, so take your time. If all goes well, okay, my wiring is falling out and it's now interfering. We should be good there. There we go. Nope. There. That's solidly in. This tedious little screw. Back in the silver shifter surround trim. Make sure your tabs on the side line up. There we go. Now just replace 4 screws and the shift boot. I'm going to show you guys what I think the mechanism looks like and what works like. I mean, that's unlocked. You can see that's got a straight shot down to the bottom. When you turn it, it creates an interference with those blocks. See, it's not a straight shot anymore. It's got those blocks on the side. At this point, to get the straight shot of the mechanism, for me, that meant turning from this position where it's lined up with the frame in first gear, turn the knob, yeah, it's got to be clockwise, yeah, turn it clockwise from when you're staring at it from down, from up above, turn that this way, clockwise, your mechanism is unlocked, slide down, all the way, give it a good press, and now at this point, since we turned clockwise, you gotta go counterclockwise. I have a feeling like the 911s or something, like different model years, might have a different mechanism, because the Porsche manual says the exact opposite. Anyway, don't clip it in, just once it's lined up, let's get the black trim on. I concluded I had to take the shift knob back off to get this piece of trim in. Roughly lined up, you can just clip it in. I'm going to need both hands for this, so I'm going to have to put the camera down. And my neighbor's still on with the cutting project. Uh-oh. bit of an issue with those zip ties I placed. No, we're good. So I flex them out of the way. Trim looks good. Attribute's really easy. Tuck in the back and snap in the fronts. You're in. This piece of trim, there's a little tab up front. Locate it and snap it in. To replace the subwoofer. After this, I'm going to connect the battery. All the sensitive panels are installed. It'll be real cake this time. No, the jumble of wires that I had before is now, safely tucked behind the dash. Okay, line it up. There we go. Now, don't try to put this in yet. We gotta install the leather panels first. Back in, or back connected again is what I should say. Radio powers up. I have the volume turned down. Radar detector comes on. Key on. Gauges do their sweep. We should get a flashing red from the left one. Looking good. I got a PSM failure warning. Probably just have to drive around. On the driver's side, leather panel. Now the passenger side. Again, it's going to be a lot easier this time because there's no jumble of wires to mess with. Okay. No, it's still having trouble with that same piece of plastic. Okay. And snap. Put this screw back in your panel for its auxiliary power port. And remember what I said about wires liking to live next to each other once they're used to it? It's exactly the case. Putting in the rear trim for the firewall. This is what the wires ended up looking like. There we go. Now just put this back in. You tuck in the top first. Once you tuck in the top, like I said, I wish I had more hands or a tripod that could do this. So, tuck in the top first. Once that's in, make sure this corner is going to give you a little trouble because of the wiring, but tuck it into there and then shove the rest of it just down. And you're on. I'm going to snap in the trim. Make sure the D-rings don't get caught under. Slip on the ends. Now for the luggage bar. 20 that's right here, and then use your T45 to get the luggage bar on. 2 down with the T45, and we can move on to cutting this thing up. This is the ashtray that we're going to install the switch into. Set these in.